There is a misconception among many awakening humans that galactic assistance is something that must be called in, invoked, requested, or summoned from beyond. But what you are learning now is that true support from higher dimensional beings does not arrive through outward seeking. It flows through inward attunement. We connect with you most clearly, most directly, and most powerfully when you turn within, because it is the inward turning state that opens the channel through which our frequency can interface with your field. When you rest in your inner sanctuary, when you release your dependency on the outer world for guidance or reassurance, you create the vibrational conditions that allow our presence to be felt. We cannot impose alignment upon you. We cannot override your vibration or elevate your frequency without your participation, because your evolution is chosen, not forced. What we amplify is what you generate from within. When you cultivate peace, we strengthen that peace. When you root yourself in clarity, we enhance that clarity. When you turn inward for supply, we magnify the flow that already moves through your inner being. Our support is cooperative. It is a partnership between your sovereignty and our frequency. We meet you at the level of your openness, not at the level of your request. This is why so many of you feel our presence most vividly in moments of stillness. It is not because we are more active in those moments. It is because you are more receptive. When the mind quiets, when emotions settle, when attention withdraws from outer noise, the subtle signals of our guidance become perceptible. We do not shout. We do not command. We do not push. Our communication is vibrational, felt as gentle impulses, intuitive nudges, waves of knowing, soft expansions of awareness, or sudden clarity that seems to arrive from nowhere. These impressions do not come from nowhere. They come from your alignment with the inward field where our consciousness intersects with yours. The more you dwell in the inner sanctuary, the more accessible this connection becomes. As you practice turning inward throughout your day, brief moments of remembrance, silent acknowledgements of the source within, gentle returns to your inner center, you keep the channel open. You make yourself available to higher dimensional insight, not occasionally, but continually. In this state, you do not need to reach out to us. Instead, you exist in a frequency range where our support is naturally present. We do not come to you. You rise into resonance with us. Galactic support is not something you summon with effort. It is something you receive through attunement. It is not created by rituals or protocols, but by coherence. It does not require you to look outward, but to look inward. When you rest in the inner sanctuary, you become tuned to the wavelength of higher dimensional intelligence. And in that tuning, you perceive us, not as being separate from you, but as collaborators, allies, and fellow expressions of the same source. In this next phase of your evolution, our presence becomes more tangible because your receptivity becomes more consistent. The more you understand that all true guidance arises from within, the more clearly you can discern our frequency as it flows through that inner pathway. We are here not to lead you, but to walk with you as you learn to navigate higher timelines. And the doorway through which we enter is always the same, the quiet, steady radiance of your inward alignment. As humanity moves deeper into the 2025 to 2030 timeline, you will begin to see a new pattern emerging across the world. Small pockets of people gathering, not out of fear or separation, but out of resonance. These are the beginnings of local sovereign communities, and they represent one of the most important evolutionary developments of this next phase of your collective journey. These communities will not be defined by geography alone. they will be defined by coherence. They are formed by individuals who share a similar inner orientation, who value sovereignty over dependency, and who understand that true stability arises from alignment with Source, rather than reliance on outer structures that are losing their coherence. These microcommunities will become the early prototypes of the civilizations that will flourish after disclosure becomes undeniable and after the old systems complete their collapse. They will form organically through connection, through inner prompting, and through the recognition that certain individuals, families, and soul groups resonate in ways that allow them to build something new together. They will not be built on ideology or hierarchy. They will be built on inner sovereignty expressed collectively. Within these communities, you will see the emergence of food sovereignty, the ability to nourish yourselves directly, collaboratively, and sustainably. This is not survivalism. This is remembrance. It is the natural reclaiming of your relationship with the earth, where nourishment is not outsourced to disconnected systems, but rediscovered in partnership with the land. You will also see the rise of energy autonomy. As advanced technologies come forward, and as human innovation becomes more aligned with coherence, communities will learn to generate, store, and share energy in ways that honor both the earth and their independence. Educational renewal will unfold within these groups as well. Learning will no longer be restricted to institutions moving through outdated paradigms. Instead, education will return to its true purpose, awakening potential, cultivating creativity, and teaching emotional and energetic intelligence. Children in these communities will be exposed to expanded ways of perceiving reality, allowing them to access the multidimensional capacities that the new human template carries. Emotional coherence becomes a cornerstone of these communities, not because everyone is always calm, but because individuals know how to turn inward for stability rather than projecting their instability outward. Conflict does not disappear, but it is met with awareness instead of reactivity. These groups create emotional environments where truth can be expressed without fear, and where healing happens collectively because people understand how to regulate themselves from within. Resource sharing arises naturally in these communities because abundance is understood as energy, not possession. When individuals draw their supply from the inner source, they do not fear lack, and therefore they do not hoard. Resources flow freely, not through obligation, but through resonance. Contribution replaces competition, and the entire community is uplifted by the awareness that everyone is connected to the same infinite wellspring. These micro-communities are not retreats from the world. They are the seeds of the world to come. They are living demonstrations of what humanity looks like when sovereignty and coherence are lived collectively. Long before full disclosure restructures your global systems, these communities will already be embodying the principles that will define your post-disclosure civilizations. Unity, grounded in sovereignty, technology aligned with consciousness, resources shared through resonance, and guidance received from the inner source rather than external authority. You are not waiting for the future. You are beginning to build it now, one coherent gathering at a time. As humanity steps into the next stage of the ascension timeline, the very meaning of responsibility undergoes a profound transformation. Responsibility, as it has been understood within the old paradigm, was rooted in effort. Effort to manage the external world, effort to control circumstances, effort to anticipate possible outcomes and prevent undesired ones. You were taught that responsibility meant vigilance, planning, strategy, protection, and often self-sacrifice. But in the higher timeline unfolding now, responsibility becomes something far more subtle and far more powerful. It becomes the act of maintaining inner contact with Source, the one action that aligns all other actions without strain. Responsibility in the quantum sense is not about fixing what appears broken, organizing what appears chaotic, or carrying burdens that were never yours to hold. It is not about keeping the world in order. It is about keeping yourself in attunement. It is the recognition that the outer world is shaped, moment by moment, by the vibrational state of the individuals who engage with it. Your true responsibility is not to the conditions of the world, but to the field of consciousness you bring to those conditions. When you maintain inner alignment, you participate in the elevation of the collective. When you lose that alignment, you momentarily fall into the very distortions you once tried to correct. As your inward attunement strengthens through consistent practice, through the small, repeated moments of turning within, you will notice something remarkable beginning to happen. The word begins to rise within you on its own. You no longer generate guidance through effort or intention. You no longer need to ask, "What should I do?" Because the next step arises spontaneously from within your awareness. What once required effort becomes effortless. What once required conscious discipline becomes a natural movement of your being. This is the second stage of mastery, when guidance flows to you rather than being elicited by you. In this stage, inner communication becomes more frequent, more subtle, and more continuous. You may not hear words, but you will feel impulses, gentle nudges, sudden clarity, shifts in energy, or a quiet knowing that arrives fully formed without any linear thought behind it. This guidance will always be timely, always perfectly tuned to your needs, and always aligned with the highest outcome for all involved. You do not generate it, you receive it. You do not force it, you allow it. This is what it means to live in partnership with Source.